pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll start with roll call. Myers? Here. Bowen? Here. Imhoff? Here. Burnwell? Here. Clark Hubbard is here. Approval of the agenda. Y'all should have a copy. Did anybody have any questions or changes? And if not, can we get a motion to approve the agenda? Motion's been made and supported to approve the agenda. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Public comment on agenda items only. Anybody have anything? All right, we'll go ahead and close public comment on agenda items and move right into new business. So at our last regular meeting in January, we discussed getting a quote from our planning firm McKenna to work on helping the planning commission determine the boundaries for the new lake residential district that they added to the zoning ordinance, and also to work on just upgrading our map and making clear boundaries on the different districts by parcel versus what we have currently. And I did get that. Just so you know, Danielle Bouchard, who we previously worked with, she helped put this together, but right before her last day, she is no longer with McKenna. So we have Ethan Senti is going to be helping with this project. And we, if you recall, had just budgeted a conservative $2,500 at the last meeting. We did a budget adjustment for that. Their quote to do recommend boundary for the newly created lake residential district, create an updated zoning map, hourly budget not to exceed $1,900, and it would only be based on the actual hours, but they're not going to go over 1,900. So I'd like to get the board's approval on this tonight so we can get them started, and then the planning commission next meets March. So at least they could kind of get the ball rolling and perhaps even come to your March meeting, at which they have attendance at meetings in the scope too. So is there a motion to approve the proposal for McKenna for mapping services not to exceed 1,900?
Make motion to approve mapping services not to exceed 1,900.
Motion's been made and supported, or motion's been made. Is there support? Okay, motion now has been made and supported. Is there further discussion? We'll do roll call. Burnwell? Yes. Myers?
Yes.
Bowen? Yes. Imhoff?
Yes.
Clark Hubbard, yes. Motion passes. Next item is, so again, carrying over from January with our IT provider right now that is closing their Michigan location for their data center and moving it to Atlanta, BC3. They have been honoring our regular rate month to month, which is $117. And then once they migrate everything to Atlanta, the fee is going up to $600 a month. And they have given till February 14th. Basically, we have to agree to this new monthly arrangement fee, which is, and I got an email to say it is month to month, no cancellation fee, we're under no length of time. But in order to start that migration, and they're also waiving the migration fee, which is $750, they need us to actually sign the proposal. So that if, we have paid through, I believe, I think we're paid up through January 20th, and we just got a new bill that should take us through February 20th based on how our contract runs, and that's for $117. So we don't want to have any disruption in our service because Jamie is right in the middle of tax season, and she collects taxes right up to February 28th. And they also confirmed the we're not going to go to that higher rate until the migration occurs, and that likely won't happen until mid-February. So the new fee probably won't kick in until March. So, but if we have to pay that higher fee for 1 month just to make Jamie's life easier, I think it's worth it.
I agree.
Yeah. So I I guess what I'm looking for is, from the board, is to approve, this month-to-month, I'm looking for a motion to approve a month-to-month proposal, from BC3 at the $601.13 a month, for IT services.
And that $601 starts when they migrate, you're saying, so.
Once they migrate us, he said we would be considered like a new client in Atlanta, so that it would probably start with a clean start at March.
What we have a bill right now due for
17, which would take us through February 20th, so I'm gonna ask him, I guess,
Right.
on that, how that's gonna work. Cause he said they would probably start at March 1st, so we get that 10 days or whatever, but once we decide Jamie's good,
Yep.
we don't need their remote desktops, server anymore until we get our other ITs figured
Right.
out what we're gonna do.
Right.
Are we gonna do
So-
an in-house server? We do have a backup plan as far as, kind of doing more of like a manual backups. I talked to our assessor, Andy Ross, so that right now, everything is backed up kind of on their cloud, their remote server. So in the interim, if we had to do that route, it'd save us money. And then we could, in the meantime, work on, are we gonna do our own server, or are we gonna go to BSNA's cloud? So that whole cost analysis and plan has to be determined. But this is to get us by, for now.
Right.
So I guess I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the month-to-month proposal, from BC3 for IT services, the monthly amount of $601.13. Is there support for that?
Support.
Motion's been made and supported. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, we'll do roll call. Myers?
Yes.
Boehm? Yes. Imhoff?
Yes.
Ernwald? Clark Hubbard, yes. Motion passes. So I will take care of the paperwork on both for McKenna and BC3 and get the ball rolling on that. And now, we have a guest tonight, Diane Jones with Michigan Municipal League, or MML is the acronym, is here to present her proposals for insurances for our liability and property and workers' comp. So
Yes.
we're gonna invite Diane up here and let
Thanks.
her talk about MML.
Let's see. Why don't we begin with the workers' compensation, is that okay?
Sure. Yep.
All right.
And I had sent all you guys a copy of the proposal and then just a little summary sheet of what we currently have. But we'll let Diane kind of go through her proposal and
Thanks.
take a look.
Alright. So the work comp. Let me just begin with the MML programs to begin with, kind of a great big overview so you can see the forest before we dive into trees. So the MML started in the 80s, the early 80s, back in the day when traditional insurance companies really pulled away from municipalities. And the MML was approached with a, hey, we have a big problem. Do you think you can help us out? So the MML formed the MML Workers' Compensation Fund and the MML Liability and Property Pool. The only entities in these insurance programs are cities, townships, villages, fire departments, libraries. That's it. I am an employee of Meadowbrook, and MML hires us as the service provider to run the programs, to be the account executives, the customer service reps, the loss prevention. That's all done by contract between the MML and Meadowbrook. I've been doing this 7.5 years. I have experience also being an elected trustee for my local township for many years, and I've also been a Kent County Commissioner, which is also an elected position. So I get to see this and have seen this from both sides. All right, so with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the Workers' Compensation Fund. So the Workers' Compensation Fund is a nonprofit self-insurance pool owned and governed by its members. It's Michigan's leading provider of workers' compensation and risk management services. There's over 900 members and over $150 million in assets. What I really want to focus on is the quote page. So if you can go to the page that has it says at the top pricing indication for workers' compensation. This program has the same expiration date for all members, which is July 1st through 6/30. What we do when members such as you approach us, potential members, to say, hey, we want to join the program, we give you a prorated premium quote, which is what you see here. This is what's bindable, effective date 2/1/25, and it would run through 7/1/25 of this year. What will happen is around May, you will get another application to update any changes in payroll you want, because we need your estimated payroll for 7/1/25 to 6/30/26 if we're selected. So what happens is you pay on an estimated payroll, and then in the fall of that year, you'll look back and you'll do an audit on actual. So these are estimated premiums, everything is adjusted by audit. For this short time frame, the prorated premium is $426. So again, if you select this, this would be effective February 1st and would end July 1st. All of our claims folks are in the state, and it's another thing, the program only is for the state of Michigan. And I'm here to make sure everything goes smoothly for you. So those are really, I mean, the work comp is statutory. I showed you online where the document was for the coverages, but it's all statutory coverages for work comp.
Yeah, and just for, I guess, are you gonna talk about your limits or your?
Yeah, we included in this, we have the $2 million employer liability limit, which is what the program offers.
Yeah, and just for comparison, if you guys wanna pull out your, that I put together, what we're currently paying. If you look at the estimated total annual premium that, Diane has on her quote, it's about the same as what we're paying now, but we're getting a lot more coverage. A lot more coverage. So, just wanted to make note of that. And then, I think we'll talk more about dividends in
Yep,
the
I
other
was
one,
gonna
but
bring that up because it is for both of them.
it does work for this one too.
Yes, but this one has a different type of formula to qualify for it, because it's actually written out, in the page before that quote, where it talks about, the dividend.
Oh, yeah.
So, it takes time. So dividends are surpluses. So when the board determines, and the board is members, there is a surplus of funds, they say, we don't keep that, it's a not-for-profit. They issue a return of premium back to the members. For the fund, it comes off even before you pay. For the pool, after you pay your premium the following year, I come out with a check for your, and it's not a grant, it's actual return of premium, because it's surplus. So, over the history of the Workers' Compensation Fund, they've returned over $58.3 million in dividends, representing about 35% of the premiums.
And just to confirm, we talked about this too, so we're joining an agreement, for membership, if we were to vote for this, in the workers' comp fund with other entities. And we're just responsible for paying our premium. We're never responsible for anybody else's liabilities. Now, if the rates will fluctuate probably based on claims.
Claims history, yep.
But, you know, and the fund is audited every year, it's an annual audit. And, I guess I just wanted to make that clear,
Yes.
that we're not responsible for
No.
anything but our premium.
Nope, it's a pool. So for both of them, the members pay in the premium, claims and expenses get paid out, and anything that's surplus, the board looks at and can declare a dividend back. And you guys are responsible for your portion of your premium that's quoted in here. So that's the workers' compensation fund in a nutshell.
Yep, okay.
Why don't we go ahead and go into the next one, which is the, are there any questions on the work comp? Okay, I figured if there was, you're just gonna stop me.
Yeah.
And
I guess we'll talk about the membership fee.
I'm getting there next.
is- Yeah.
Yes.
We don't have to pay that twice.
Yes, so in order to participate in one or both of the MML insurance programs, since it is a member benefit, you have to then be a member of the MML. To be a member of the MML, they have a level of membership called an associate member. That membership allows you to buy one of the insurance programs or both. It's $200 a year. You only pay it once. As I was explaining to Brandy, if you just choose the work comp, you would pay this premium, but then the MML fee invoice is separate. If you select both, the program bills the $200 on the liability and property pool invoice. And that's just how it's always been done. Okay, let's go to the, MML liability and property pool, and it says revised, because I worked with Brandy a few times on some additional details to get the most accurate premium based on your exposures for this quote. So this is the final revised one. I included, in working with Brandy, your property schedule, your inland marine schedule, and your crime schedule. So for the overview, the decision, if you go with us, one of the things I asked Brandy to let me know, we quoted two options for your liability limits. We quoted $1 million and $2 million. So if you want the $1 million, the premium is $5,331. If you want the $2 million in liability limits, the premium is $6,531. And either one of those, you'd add the $200 MML membership fee if you choose this program and the work comp program, or just this program. This one, the dividend starts after your first renewal. So if you select this, your first renewal would be next February, and you would get 10% of your declared dividend. Then at the second renewal, it's 25%, at the third renewal, it's 50%, the fourth renewal is 75%, and at the fifth renewal, you're at 100% of your dividend. So there's over 452 public entity members in the pool. There's over $6.7 billion of property values. The next few pages give you a really nice overview of your cost, what we call the cost and coverage summary. So you can see I submitted two. One has the $1 million of liability limits. And then you'll see at the back of that page, the $5,331 in premium. The other one is the $2 million in limits. And you'll see at the back of that one, the pool premium of $6,531. These coverages also include cyber coverage. So if you come in and your computers are all locked up and there's a demand for a Bitcoin to get your information back, that's cyber extortion. and you have cyber coverage for that with our program. The piece I emphasize to all members that I work with is, if you have that happen, I'm gonna show you where the claim form is. You're gonna fill out the claim form, take a picture of it, text it to me. Of course, your computers don't work, you can't email it. So text it to me so I can get it in. We actually had a member that had that issue, and they didn't send in the claim first. They called their IT first, they called a bunch of other people besides us first. Not all the coverages were applied because they went to vendors that the coverage doesn't work with. So it has to be led by the coverage document, and this is the only coverage that you reported to us, but we contract with a company called Beasley Insurance, and Beasley just handles cyber insurance. So they are under contract with us to handle all of the coverages from a claim standpoint.
But you take care of that, we go to you and.
Yes,
you take care
yep,
of that.
you go to us, we're gonna get it to Beasley, and Beasley's gonna be on you guys like whatever, and that's how that's gonna work. Yes. There's also other coverages in here. You guys have a website, do you use social media at all?
We have, a website through the Village of Lakeview, we pay them to have a section of their website.
Okay,
A little YouTube.
do you have your own Facebook for the township?
We don't.
Okay, but if you do, down the road, there's website media, content liability coverage for $100,000. Do you take credit cards? Okay, if you do, down the road, and let's say you're a breach, there's coverage to notify 10,000 individuals under this too.
Okay.
So just know that the coverage is there,
Okay.
if you do decide to venture into those arenas.
Yep.
One of the things we also did is we added the sexton to the liability coverages. I worked with Brandy to, that apparently had been done before.
Yes,
So we also have that in the policy.
yeah, that's for his role as the cemetery secretary.
Yes.
He keeps his own insurance for the lawn care
Mm-hmm.
piece, so.
So in this proposal, you have your team of experts. I'm the friendly account executive. Mike Forrester's the pool administrator. That would be my manager's manager. If you wanna call him and tell him how great I am, super. If you have any other questions, really wanna be your first phone call.
Yeah.
So I had one member I work with, and we talked 6-7 times one day, and she felt so badly for calling me so many times. She called him instead because she wanted to bother me. And I said, it's okay, cause he called me and said, she wants to know this. I'm like, I got it, it'll be okay. We do have customer service reps, so with the customer service reps, let's say you join on, let's say you need to have an endorsement because you purchased new voting equipment and you need more values in your voting equipment. We would just add that by endorsement after you send me an email to say, Diane, we added more voting equipment, we now need $25,000 in limit, and we would just increase it by endorsement.
Without a fee, I think you said that.
Correct,
There's
so,
no fees.
the only time we charge additional, invoicing, what you change would have to create $500 in premium or higher.
Okay.
And it takes a lot to get to $500 in premium or higher. So just to make a note of that. But yes, something small like that is not gonna create $500 in premium. We would just add it by endorsement, and then at the next renewal, I would put in the summary here, where, talking about in your executive overview, anything that changes, I do a bullet point.
Okay.
I also shared that general rule of thumb, premiums every year go up anywhere from 3 to 5%. That's usually what I end up delivering pretty consistently.
And oftentimes, the dividend, once you get to the 100%.
Offsets
is enough
it.
to offset that.
Yep, that is what I have found. All right, you also have loss control services with this. The loss control services are not an additional fee. We have programs that have 24/7 video access to training. You want to expand training on different topics, and loss control can set you up with that. So I wanted to mention that too. All right, so the next,
What page was that on?
That is,
Or maybe it was on it.
nope, it's in here. I'll show you where that is. 'Cause I know that, so I just gotta find it. Okay, it's after that one. It is on page 15. And I brought a specific handout on the training center.
Risk management, oh, yeah,
There you go.
thank you.
And that gives you some sample topics that the video training covers.
Okay.
But yes, that's on page 15.
Okay.
Alright, but before that, I'd like to go to where it says highlights of coverages provided.
It's on page.
Go after right after 14 where I talk about what the township has, you can get increased liability limits, it looks like this. Highlights of coverages provided.
Maybe I don't print that one.
I'm gonna go through some
Yeah, go
highlights of
ahead.
the coverages provided. So one of the questions that's pretty common that I get is, especially from board members, you know, you're making important decisions that potentially could land in lawsuits with your name on it. So the question is, hey, if I'm sued, does this coverage apply to me? That answer is yes. So who is an insured? The pool entity member, elected and appointed officials, employees and authorized volunteers, and any person officially appointed to a board or commission. And this whole program, this whole policy is just designed for municipalities. And that's why that's written that way, and that's why it's so broad. Alright, few things with any insurance policy, there are exclusions. I wanna highlight a handful of the exclusions. I don't know if you guys do fireworks. You guys do fireworks? Okay, if you decide to do fireworks, you can if you add the township on the pyrotechnics insurance, then fill out an extra app for us, and then your liability limits would sit on top of that. Liquor liability is excluded. If you're ever going to sell and serve liquor, that's excluded, but you can get a special events policy for that and buy with a separate premium and a separate policy coverage for that. Mechanical amusement rides. If you're gonna have the fair come in and you guys are paying for the fair, please make sure you get on their insurance, and that's pretty common. So those are the, highlights of exclusions for the general liability. Pollution is excluded. Things here, do you guys have a drone?
No.
Alright, those you can get coverage for, but it's an additional application. Alright, we talked about the cyber already. Public officials liability, very important. This is where you might have a claim for wrongful termination, employment practices liability, that's all covered, violation of civil rights, all of that's covered in the public officials liability. And I sent you those coverage pages too.
Yep,
Randy.
you did.
Mhm. And that's another thing, if you select us, then you will get a full policy in not only electronically, but in paper, and I will review it with you. I can do everything from read the whole 15 pages of property coverage and all 28 pages of liability coverage, or I go over highlights of both coverages and exclusions, and then if you have questions after that, I usually get phone calls, right, if there's something specific. I will tell you that each claim is adjusted on its own merits, so each claim that we get, the claim adjusters are looking for coverage. This is your program, they want to cover as broadly as many things as they can. If it does trigger an exclusion, they'll let you know and why. Alright, go ahead and talk about the property. So talking about property exclusions, one of the ones that's very common is wear and tear. We don't cover that. I'd be very popular if I did. I had a phone call from a manager who's like, hey, I went to start my generator and it didn't start. I said, well, was there a fire? No. Did a car hit it? No. I said, well, how old's the generator? He said, well, it's 25 years old. I said, let me get this right. Your 25-year-old generator just didn't start. Yep. I said, that's wear and tear and that just isn't covered. Now, had it been struck by lightning, I tell them to submit that claim in, right? I will 9 out of 10 times tell you, if you have a possible claim, send it in. Always send it in. Because there were times where I've heard scenarios and I'm like, I don't know if that'll be covered. It's not my determination. And I pay for everything, which is why they don't let me have that job. I have this job. So I can tell you what the policy says, but the application of the policy wording to the claim is up to the adjusters. I will tell you I get involved if there's something that's a gray area, and I can float it to higher levels of management for review. I've only had to do that a handful of times, and before it even got there, they called me to say, Diane, here's what's coming down the pipe, and you'll probably get a phone call. And it had already gone to higher levels of management. So, with that being said, let's go to crime. So crime is not theft of this table. Crime is your employee dishonesty and embezzlement coverage. And every time I sit down, they're like, entities tell me all the time, it'll never happen to us. And then they call me and they go, I can't believe it happened. Every single time. I had two years ago. One was a small village, the other one was a large city. And the part that's always hard for me is it's the people I'm working with, it's the people I'm talking to that are doing the embezzling. So this covers 100,000. You have your bonded positions. If a position is not bonded, the employee dishonesty blanket bond covers it up to 100,000. And I will tell you, it does happen. You know, in both cases, I'll just tell you the scenario was the same. So people came in with cash, they paid a water bill, or they just paid something with cash. And then all that cash got recorded as, yep, they paid, and then it didn't make it to the bank. And the problem there was the same person who took the cash was the same person to take it to the bank, who was the same person to reconcile it. So without more separation of duties, that is a higher risk for this. We encourage separation of duties. I know when you're smaller, sometimes that's hard, if not downright impossible. But we do encourage it, and that's why. So just consider that a loss control tip. So I will tell you too that this 100,000, so from the, you hopefully had this coverage in your previous, whoever you're with now. But let's just say a year from now, on March 1st, oh my gosh, Diane, you're not gonna believe it, there's an embezzlement. And we've discovered it, we did the forensic audit. The forensic audit cost is on you. That's not something this policy pays for. You guys had the forensic audit, you were able to prove that, you know, $50,000 was taken in this year time period. So you will have that 100,000 from the date it's discovered to a year back from discovery. So that's how that works. Even though the bond will say, you know, 2/1 to 2/1, if you discover something March 1st of 26, you don't just get a month's worth of coverage, you get a year from the date it's discovered. All right, no one's nodding off yet, so I'm doing okay. I know, insurance isn't as exciting for everyone as it is for me. I know we've hit the mml.org website a bit for information. There's a lot of great information on that website, including one option to submit claims electronically. But I also, when I deliver your binder, have forms to give you for claims, and I actually can give you one now so that you have it. There are membership responsibilities. We do ask that you pay your premium when it's due. If you have claims, we ask that you submit them in timely. And those are really the highlights of the member responsibilities. I did bring, and I see you have it here, the announcement of the dividends. The nice thing about the dividend announcement, and I will share that dividends are not guaranteed. So yes, we've had consistent dividends in this program since 2010, but if there is not a surplus, the board can't declare a dividend. But since 2010, they have been able to declare a dividend. And I provided you the member newsletter that shares with you the members who are on the pool board and the members who are on the fund pool board, or fund board, so you can see those folks.
And we get to vote once a year.
Yep.
Who gets on that board? We haven't.
I
thought I saw that in the.
Yeah, I don't know if their seats are yearly or if there's some that have longer terms. But I do know there is a voting process, yes. That pretty much ends what I have, with the exception of handing out this to you, Candy, just because I thought it would be helpful. So this is what a paper claim form looks like for the pool. Very simple. We don't want or need at that time your estimates or pictures. You just fill that out the best you can to get the claim in so you can talk to an adjuster.
Okay.
And then you email it to gr.mml@meadowbrook.com. It's in the upper corner. We also have a after-hours emergency claim reporting number, which is on these forms. These are your claim reporting procedures. But the 800 number comes in handy when you have that 9 PM on a Friday night tornado. And a lot of times I suggest for members to just put my number in your phone,
Yeah.
because your book might be somewhere down the street, right? Because the tornado took out this whole row of buildings. I mean, it's happened. I had a city lose a building a couple years ago, and at that point, you're in crisis mode. And it's just nice to know that you can let the board know and the public know that, yes, there's insurance, yes, it's been reported, even minutes after everything happens. So this is a 24/7 800 number, which will connect you to an answering service that will get to you on call, whoever the adjuster is. So I have this for you too, which is also going to be in the policy book that I deliver, but I thought you might like it.
As far as the two options, can you talk to me a little bit about, on the phone about this, which I know it's really up to, risk tolerance, but
Yes.
can you just talk a little bit between the million and the 2
Sure.
million, the two options?
Yep, so you have a choice, because we wanted to give you options for how many limits you wanted in liability limits. So we quoted the million, we quoted the 2 million. If you have a lawsuit that goes through the process and the judge grants over $1 million, anything over the $1 million, if you select $1 million, will be on you to figure out how to pay. If you have something that is that 2 million and you purchase the 2 million limits, then you'll have $2 million in limits. I will also say that our limits are per occurrence. So you don't need to have an umbrella, which means you could have February 2nd, a lawsuit for, let's say you picked the $1 million, it's $1 million lawsuit. You could have the week after another $1 million lawsuit, and the week after another $1 million lawsuit, and the week after another. Every occurrence you have for a claim has whatever liability limit you pick. It's the broadest limit you can have. That's why when you look at the cost and coverage summary, and then you look at the liability coverage, you'll see the aggregate limit is NA in many cases. Some cases there is a number there. But if it's NA, that means there is no aggregate, that every single claim has that limit. So going back to how to decide between $1 million and $2 million, ultimately it is whatever risk tolerance you guys have. If you're comfortable with the risk of having claims over 1 million be on you, then go with, and it's also a financial decision for your budget. You know, how much can you guys afford? If you prefer to transfer the risk and you're more comfortable with $2 million in limits, then pay the $6,531 in premium and get $2 million in limits.
All right, anybody have any other questions?
Is each elected official, their personal name part of the insurance policy, and then as it changed, so no, it's just blanketed to the elected officials,
Yep.
that's how it's stated, okay?
Yep, it's all about the position, including the crime bonds. So the crime bonds that are in the policy are by position. So if you have a different treasurer or deputy treasurer or clerk or deputy clerk or supervisor, it doesn't change, cause it's by position.
What about rentals? If we rent this out?
Mm-hmm. Yep, so, it's very common for municipalities that we work with to rent their facilities out. We highly recommend that you have a rental agreement in place. And in that rental agreement, hopefully your attorney has added what we call hold harmless and indemnification language for the township. And that's usually something, we can advise things like this. I even have documents that are available online
I
that
wondered if you had like.
talk about renting facilities, but we don't have actual contracts because those should be written by attorneys because they're legal documents that can be challenged in a court of law. So I'm not an attorney, you don't want me writing those, you want to have your attorneys write those. We can make recommendations, we can review them and let you know if they missed the paragraph, the insurance wording, but all of that should be done by attorneys. But yeah, that happens all the time. And then there's the decision a lot of times to do alcohol or not alcohol. I have municipalities that are like, nope, not even going to have that in the mix. Other municipalities like, yeah, we'll try to figure it out. And then they work with the attorney to have the proper language in there.
We have a no alcohol.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Any other questions?
I brought the whole coverage book, just in case you had, if you wanted to chat more about in-depth coverages. I know Brandy and I covered a few
Covered
things.
a few, like the
Mhm.
cemetery, if a tree falls
Oh,
on a
yes.
headstone.
Yes, so
You can get
you,
tree removed.
yes,
Covered. with
yeah,
a
you
stone.
got it,
But
good,
if it just falls in the driveway, it's not covered.
not covered. Yep, so you guys have the cemetery property. It's $500 per headstone. If a headstone is damaged, let's take, the tree. So the tree falls, damages a number of headstones, multiple headstones. You'd have $500 per headstone, and that cost of that tree removal would be included with the property coverage. If the tree just falls and there's no property damage with it, there isn't any coverage.
And then
And it's covered with replacement cost. I mean, it's covered the price of the headstone, but that's the replacement cost of the headstone, right?
No, it's not, it's $500 per headstone with a $500 deductible, and it's right here, cemetery property is up to $500 per headstone. If you're on the wrong page, you have to go to the summary page. It looks like this. The cost and coverage summary. So if you go to any cost and coverage summary, you'll see, cemetery property, it's up to $500 per headstone with a $500 deductible. And your property deductible is $500 too. That might be different than what your expiring program is.
Yeah,
I just thought I'd point that out.
it is. It's 1,000 right now, yeah.
I thought I saw 1,000 in here, but
No,
maybe not.
no, we're 500. 500's better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, we also added that wrought iron fencing to be part of this too, because trees above that could be expensive. We have that along the road out to the cemetery. And then we've got the 2 buildings out there. Autos, we don't have any of our own, but if somebody is on township business, we have some
Only liability coverage.
Only liability coverage.
So with the autos, you have what we call hired and non-owned. So if you have, you're all off to a conference, you're all in the same car, you end up in an accident and kill a family, the family realizes you're on your way to a conference for the township, they sue the driver, they sue the township. If the liability limits you have sit excess of the driver's liability limits, but there is no physical damage coverage for the vehicle. And there would be no physical damage coverage of any vehicle you rent, but you would have liability coverage. So you don't need to buy liability coverage if you rent a vehicle, but you do have to buy the physical damage coverage.
All right.
And again, if you, look at the, if the vehicles say, no vehicles, but in the summary of the highlights of the coverages provided, under auto, it says hired and non-owned.
Okay. Any other questions? So if we were to decide to change to you guys, we could get it effective February 1st, but would have to know right away.
Ideally tonight before you leave, would be if I could get an email or first thing in the morning.
Yep.
I do have the team, I confirmed, no one is on PTO, everyone's in, so we will be able to bind the coverage and get you all your documents tomorrow,
So,
by the end of the day. Yes.
if we were to vote on, hopefully we can come to a vote tonight. We would vote to approve your proposal and cancel our other effective February 1st would be how we would work
Mhm.
that.
Yep.
And then, as far as approving the invoice for payment, we have the amounts, we could get that going too, so
You
'cause
could.
we need to get you a
You
check.
could, but you have time.
We do have time, okay?
Yeah, we like payment, so the payment is due technically the day your policy is effective. However, we want it within 30 days. So if you can get us a check, and I prefer to, if you wait, you'll have a formal invoice
Okay.
tomorrow.
Okay, so we have a meeting on, our regular meeting is, what is it, February?
There you go.
So we
You
can-
can approve it
okay,
then.
So we can do that,
Mm-hmm.
alright. And then we have the intergovernmental contract, which we have to
Yes.
sign for the liability property pool.
Yep.
Everybody got a copy of that?
And then for the fund, you need to finish the application.
Yeah,
That
that
last
last
page.
page that has agreement.
Yes.
That as well.
Yep.
So,
And put the effective date in there, I think there's a spot on the work comp where it says, effective,
oh yeah,
yep, put that in,
12 a.m. February 1st.
yep, February 1st,
Okay. So again, I had kind of done a summary, so you guys can kind of see, we have the million right now. And you can see what the proposed premium is for what we have now with $1,000 deductible on most everything, no cyber coverage. And the 2 million is roughly what we've been paying total. So I think we had budgeted knowing that's well within our budget if we went with the 2 million. Plus the $200 membership fee.
It's only $1,200 more for another million coverage.
Right.
Yep.
And right now, we're paying
Well,
from the same
And
amount.
I'll just add that I believe your coverages were effective 1/1, so you will have some type of prorated premium from your other carrier
Yeah.
for that January month. I
And
just thought
that's-
I'd
Yes.
make a note of that.
Mm-hmm, and they're being very generous as far as hadn't make us pay the
Great.
full amount, and so that's
That's
why I wanna
awesome.
get them an answer. Anybody else have any other further discussion? I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the proposals from MML for the liability and property pool insurance at the option 2, 2 million. And cancel the PAR plan effective February 1st. Is there support for that?
Support.
Motion's been made and supported.
Further discussion? Do roll call. Myers,
Yes.
Bowen,
Yes.
Imhoff,
Yes.
Burnwell,
Yes.
Clark Hubbard, yes, motion passes. And then I guess we'll just do a separate motion on this too, a motion to approve, the supervisor to sign the intergovernmental contract for the liability and property pool. Is there support for that?
Support.
Motion's been made and supported, further discussion? Roll call, Burnwell,
Yes.
Imhoff,
Yes.
Bowen,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Clark Hubbard, yes, motion passes. Make another motion to approve the proposal from MML for workers' compensation fund insurance and cancel auto owners effective February 1st. Is there support?
Support.
Motion's been made and supported, further discussion? Roll call, Burnwell,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Bowen,
Yes.
Imhoff,
Yes.
Clark Hubbard, yes, motion carries. And I make a motion for the supervisor to sign the membership agreement for MML Workers' Comp Fund. Is there support?
Support.
Motion's been made and supported, further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Myers,
Yes.
Bowen,
Yes.
Imhoff,
Yes.
Burnwell,
Yes.
Clark Hubbard, yes, motion carries.
Thank
Looking forward to working with you.
Me too.
And I should just note, you got glowing remarks from Village of Lakeview, Maple Valley Township, and Winfield Township.
Oh, thank
So
you.
We're really,
I've
looking forward
enjoyed
to
working
working
with
with
them over the last number of years too.
And I would like to thank Brandy for all of her hard
Yes.
work and doing all of this for us, because you went way above and beyond and really appreciate it.
I can second
Yes,
that as
I
well,
know.
because this was no easy lift. I wasn't sure we'd be able to pull off a quote for 2-1 with the time frame. It's not typical. The underwriter was, able to take the information we got promptly, and we do need a lot of information, to make all this happen. And you turned that around in a matter of days, and that allowed us to expedite what we could on our end to get this to this point. So, cause the original proposals were March 1st, and that would have been another month of time of waiting. So, hooray that it all came together, although right to the last day, hey, we can make things happen.
Yeah.
So,
I'm
yes.
happy because it was a great deal. You could obviously see the comparison and, you know, our previous, think our previous, agency, Barron's Hendricks, you know, they can only do what our plan allows and, but really, really appreciate everything you put together and coming here tonight and putting it all in layman's
Absolutely.
terms for us who
Yep.
don't deal in insurance.
And like I said, in the near future, we'll have an appointment and I will go over the entire policy. We, as a side note on the entire policy for the pool, we print it every 3 years. So you get it when you first sign up, and then I believe you'll have it next year, cause that'll put you on the 3-year rotation. But after that, we renew by what we call, renewal certificates. So you'll get your updated schedules, but the actual policy itself will be renewed, with those certificates. You know, it's a pretty thick binder. I always put the year on the side, cause they all start looking the same when you stack them up in a cupboard. So you know which year you need by just looking at the binder. And, yeah, I think it is great to know that you'll have your full policy and access to it, with us.
Nice.
So, thank you all.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you. So, I'll get you these signed agreements,
Great.
and is there anything else you needed from me?
I need email.
An email,
So
in
that,
writing,
so
yes.
what you do is just shoot an email, one for the fund and one for the pool. The fund have the completed app and say proposal accepted, 2-1 to 7-1. And then with the pool, we are selecting the $2 million in limits. Here's the intergovernmental agreement signed, and then we'll bind the coverage. And then I'll get you everything electronically, and then follow up with paper, and you'll have everything electronically tomorrow.
Okay.
And then I'll follow up with paper shortly after that.
Okay, and an invoice should be here before. our
The
next
invoice
meeting.
will be tomorrow.
Okay.
And you'll have a premium breakdown too, so you can see how that premium was calculated by line item.
Okay.
Mhm.
Perfect. All right, thanks again.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too, thanks, Diane. All right, reminder.
Thank you.
So, that brings us to the end of new business and go into, final public comment. Anybody? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn? Motion to
I was
adjourn.
gonna say something.
Second,
A second.
motion made and supported, further discussion, all in favor?